In today's video, I'm going to be showing you one of the easiest and most effective ways to spice up your chord progressions, and that is secondary dominance. Enjoy. How's it going? I'm Dave, and my channel is all about helping you create awesome neo-soul, R&B and modern sounds on your guitar. If that sounds like your kind of thing and you're new here, make sure you hit that subscribe button and you click the notification bell so that you're notified every single time I release a new video. In today's video, we're going to be talking about secondary dominant chords. As I said in the beginning, once you understand how they work, they're a really easy way to really spice up your chord progressions, add some tension, add a lot of emotion into your chord progressions. So I'm going to be explaining what they are, I'm going to show you how to play them, and then there's going to be a few examples of secondary dominance in chord progressions so you can kind of hear how they sound. Now this video is going to be specifically for the beginners that are advancing into that intermediate territory. So if that's you, this is going to be great. And I'm sure if you're an intermediate player as well, you're going to get a lot from this as well. First of all, we need to know how to play a dominant seventh chord. So there are lots and lots of different ways of playing a dominant seventh chord, but I'm just going to show you 3 different ways that are going to be really useful. One with the root note on the 6th string, one with the root note on the 5th string, and one with the root note on the 4th string. If we make the root note the 5th fret, this is the first shape with the root note on the 6th string. We're playing 5 on the E, 7 on the A, 5 on the D, 6 on the G, 5 on the B, and 5 on the E. The 5-string bar chord would look and sound like this. Okay, so we're playing 5 on the A, 7 on the D, 5 on the G, 7 on the B, and 5 on the high E. And then the 4-string version of a dominant 7 chord would look like this. So we're playing 5 on the D, 7 on the G, 6 on the B, and 7 on the high E. So now that you know how to play a dominant 7th chord, it'd be a good idea to know what they do. In any particular key, let's take the key of C for example. Chord 5 is a dominant 7 chord. So in the key of C, C, D, E, F, G, G is the 5th chord, and that is a dominant 7th chord, so we could play a G dominant 7. This G dominant 7 serves the purpose of creating tension and unrest in the chord progression before resolving back onto C. So take a listen to how it sounds when I play the G7 and then resolve back on the C. Okay, that G7 creates tension, the C releases the tension, and we're at home. Now the important thing to note here is that the G7 resolves down a 5th to C. So G is a 5th higher than C. You could put it that way as well. Now secondary dominants come in where we use this 5-to-1 resolution to other chords that are not just chord 1 in your key. So this makes it really important to be able to locate a 5th anywhere on the fretboard. Let me show you how you can find a 5th on the fretboard. So if we wanted to find the 5th of a note on the low E string, for example G, the 3rd fret, all we're going to do is kind of do a power chord shape. So 2 frets higher and 1 string higher. So that'd be the 5th fret of the A string. Okay, that's a D. So D is the 5th of G. Okay, so 2 frets higher, 1 string higher. Now, if you wanted to find a 5th on a string below, you could do this. So if I wanted to find the 5th of E, for example, E is the 7th fret on the A string. Okay, all you're going to do is play the same fret on the string below. So the 7th fret of the E string is the 5th of the 7th fret on the A string. So the 7th fret on the A string is E, and the 5th would be B. And that works the same way from the D string to the A string. If I wanted to find the 5th of G, which is the 5th fret of the D string, I just play the 5th fret of the A string. And that is the 5th, and that is a D. This takes us into secondary dominance, which is what the video is about. And what we do is we play a secondary dominant by knowing what chord is next in our chord progression and playing a dominant 7th chord a 5th above it. So for example, if the next chord in our chord progression was A, we could figure out what's a 5th above A. So there's our 5th, that's E, and we play a dominant 7th chord with the root note E. So we play an E7. This E7 goes nicely into A. And it doesn't matter if the chord you're going into is a major chord or a minor chord, it works the same. So we could play an E7 into an A minor as well. Yeah, bit of a darker sound there. So let's apply this to a very basic chord progression, and then we'll do 2 slightly more neo-soul appropriate chord progressions. This chord progression is C, A minor, F, and G. And we're going to put secondary dominant chords in between every single chord. So from C, the next chord is A minor. So we've got to work out what a fifth above A is. And a fifth above A would be the same fret on the string below. So that's E. And we could play an E7 before our A minor. Okay. Now the next chord after A minor is F. So we need to find a fifth above F, and that would be C. So we can play a C7 before we play the F. Then the next chord in our chord progression is G. And we said earlier that fifth above G is D, so we could play a D7 before we land on the G. And G is already a fifth above C, so we could just turn that into a G7 and land that back on C. So altogether, this gets turned into this. So it's pretty simple. Once you've got it down, just figure out what chord is next and play a fifth above that as a dominant seventh chord. Let's take a look at some chord progressions that are a bit more neo-soul appropriate and add some secondary dominance. So first chord progression, C major 7, D7, E minor 7. Okay. We can apply a secondary dominant before this E minor 7. Yeah, you could apply it anywhere, but I'm going to do it before this E minor 7. Okay, so we find out what a fifth above E is. So our root note is on the 7th fret of the A string. So the fifth is going to be on the 7th fret of the E string. So that's B. So we're going to play a B7 just before we play the E minor 7. Let's take a listen to how that's added some emotion to the chord progression. And then maybe if we wanted to repeat the chord progression and go back to C, maybe we could add a secondary dominant before the C. So that would be G. So we could play a G7, play that G7 before the C major 7. Okay, so let's take a listen to that. Sounds really, really nice. And now let's try one more chord progression. We're going to be using some cool inversions for this chord progression just to spice things up a little bit. We have got an A major 7 chord here. So we're playing 2, 2, 2, 4 on the top 4 strings. And then our second chord is a C sharp minor chord. A C sharp minor 7, sorry. Sounds like this. And maybe if we added a little strumming pattern or a finger picking pattern. Okay, so we've got A major 7, C sharp minor 7. Let's add the secondary dominant just before we go back to this A major 7. Okay, so the fifth of A is E, so we could play an E7 chord. That 4-string version that I showed you how to play earlier. Okay, so we got this leading back into our A major 7. Okay, let's give that a go with the finger picking pattern. Now that sounds really, really pretty. So hopefully you can see from this lesson the impact that secondary dominance can have on your chord progressions and your playing in general. It really adds tension, really adds a lot of emotion to your chord progressions and makes things sound a lot less boring. So definitely start adding them into your chord progressions. If you've got any questions, let me know in the comments. if there's anything you didn't understand, or if you've got any video suggestions for the future. Like the video if you haven't done so, and also subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. If you're looking to really take your chord progressions to the next level, I'd suggest getting my book Chord Charisma, and I'm offering the first 2 chapters of my book Chord Charisma for free. In those first 2 chapters, I'm going to show you how to build a basic chord progression with these 7 chords in your key, so you know which order to put them in, to build the most tension, to take the listener on as much of a journey as you can. And then from there, I'm going to show you how to spice those chords up with cool extensions like 9ths, 11ths, and 13ths. So you're going to get a really sophisticated and jazzy sound out of your playing. If that sounds like your kind of thing, again, all of that is completely free in the first 2 chapters of my book Chord Charisma, which you can get down in the description. That is all for today. Make sure you check out this video here to learn even more, and I will see you there. Have a good one.